tuned in. We're going to start again. So welcome all to the 21st of March 2022 Council meeting. I open the meeting now at 7:13 or 14 p.m. I will now pass on to the CEO who will read out the formalities.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome all. This is an ordinary meeting of Council. My name is Alison Beckwith and I'm the Chief Executive Officer. Tonight's meeting is being held in person in accordance with the provisions of Council's governance rules and the Local Government Act 2020. The meeting is being live streamed via Council's website and Facebook page. The live stream is not interactive. Any comments or private messages directed to us while the stream is live will not be presented to the Council group or have any bearing on the conduct of tonight's meeting. Council's request to speak methods continue to allow participation by our residents without them having to attend the meetings in person. Our rules for public participation during the meeting include: please note that any public questions submitted to tonight's Council meeting will be printed in the minutes. Council does not accept questions as part of the request to speak process. No statement may be derogatory, defamatory or directed to an individual councillor, member of staff, ratepayer or member of the public. A 2-minute time limit applies to all requests to speak. The timer will be used and a warning will sound at the 1.5-minute mark, and officers will sum up for the last 30 seconds if required to do so for statements being read out on behalf of residents. I will now introduce you to those that are in attendance to tonight's meeting. So to my left and your right, I'll start with Director of Assets and City Services, Darren Bennett, Director of Community Wellbeing, Kath Brackett, Councillor Tom Melican, Councillor Peter Dimorellos, Councillor Alida McKern, our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Alison Champion, our Manager of Corporate Governance and Communications, Gina Burden, our Mayor, Councillor Elizabeth Neely, Councillor Rick Garotti, Councillor Peter Castaldo, Councillor Fiona Mitsonikos, Councillor Mark Di Pasquale, our Director of Corporate Services, Mark Gilio, and Director of City Development, Natasha Swan. Also attending tonight is our support crew, including our governance team, members of our IT team and our JETS team who are coordinating tonight's live stream. We thank you for participating in tonight's meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alison. Our meeting is being held on the traditional land of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and on behalf of Banyule City Council, I acknowledge them as the traditional custodians. I would also like to pay my respects to Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung elders, past, present and emerging, and to acknowledge other Aboriginal and Torres Strait elders joining us today. Council is committed to and values diversity within our community. I will now read Banyule's diversity statement that demonstrates our commitment. Our community is made up of diverse cultures, beliefs, abilities, bodies, sexualities, ages and genders. We are committed to access, equity, participation and rights for everyone, principles which empower, foster harmony and increase the well-being of an inclusive community. There are no apologies this evening, and I'll move straight into the confirmation of the minutes held on the 7th of February 2022 and the 28th of February 2022. Can I please have a councillor move and second? Should we go with before? Moved, Councillor Melican. Seconded, Councillor Dimorellos. I now put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried. As required at any other meeting of Council, councillors must declare a conflict of interest and at the start of the meeting and leave the meeting when the item is presented to Council. Councillors will be required to leave and return when it's been resolved, and at any point through the meeting, if any other councillor recognises that they have a general or material interest, that can flag at that point and follow the same procedure. Are there any disclosures of interest? There are no disclosures. Item 2, petitions. Petition 2.1, keep Rosanna Parklands as an off-lead dog park. There are 5 speakers to the item. A pre-recorded video statement will be played on behalf of Jody Barnes. Brian Grace will address the council in person. Brian, please approach the lectern. You have 2 minutes. Yep. It's coming.
My name is Brian Grace. I'm a Vice President of Good Governance Banyule. I'm also a long-term resident of Banyule. I wish to thank the Mayor, Councillors and the Banyule City Council Executive for allowing me to speak in person tonight. It really feels nice to be able to address Council in person, unlike many of our neighbouring councils and how they operate. From a point of view of someone who questions many things Banyule Council says and does, I support this item to leave the park as it is. Rosanna Parklands was originally the Rosanna public golf course many years ago. The residents have fought long and hard to have the park remain relatively untouched or changed. Just the thought of putting a path around the park was a very community divisive issue, as this may also be. But over the past few years, the Banyule Council has made quite a number of park improvements. Mallalong Park, Delta Road Park. Whilst I have been critical of the Banyule Council in the past for selling off many parks and open spaces, Rosanna Parklands is a very clean, quiet, graffiti-free park. And it should be left as it is and not changed or fenced off in any way. I understand some residents have complaints, but they're of a small number and they're related to dogs on leads. But these issues, are they serious enough to warrant a major change in the Rosanna Parklands? I don't believe so. On the matter of well-kept parks, I must say that that is not the case of Barclay Park in Greensborough. It is as if the community is being punished for supporting and fighting to keep the park. Please, Council, fix Barclay Park. I ask you tonight because our local councillor has done nothing but put a plaque with his name on it, and might I just say the community will know that at election time. If you've got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Okay, thank you.
Okay, just the pre-recorded video. We can move to the statements. So before we'll play the pre-recorded video next, but written statements can now be read out by Mark Gillio, Director of Corporate Services, and Natasha Swan, Director of City Development, and Kath Brackett, Director of Community Wellbeing, on behalf of Wayne Shivers, Belinda Batty, and Harris Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm speaking on behalf of Wayne Shivers. Dear Banyule Council, my name is Wayne Shivers and I'm a resident and business owner in Banyule. I'm formerly the Director of Training for former Vice President of Warringal Obedience Dog Club for 25 years. And I'm also a former licensed instructor with the Victorian Canine Association. Around 20 years ago, Banyule Council employed an outside consultant to recommend off-lead parklands on behalf of the council. I was nominated to be part of this process as a representative of Warringal Obedience Dog Club. I clearly remember meeting this consultant at Rosanna Parklands and walking around the park discussing the advantages and disadvantages of Rosanna Parklands as an off-lead park for dogs. I remember her stating to me that Rosanna Parklands was an ideal off-lead dog park as it had previously been an old golf course and therefore not a natural park and had the right characteristics in terms of size and location. As a former licensed instructor, I've supplied a letter to the council detailing the advantages of having a large off-lead bushland space for dogs to exercise in, some of which includes 1, allowing dogs to be off-lead and move more freely at their natural pace has proven to create better behaviour patterns and feelings of relaxation in and out of home. 2, giving dog owners a convenient place to let their dogs off lead creates an outlet for dogs to burn off energy and be calmer and less likely to create noise at home throughout the neighbourhood. And 3, better mental health for dogs and the owners. Off lead gives dogs more confidence as they feel they have more choice in how they explore. It also helps to build trust and reduces anxiety surrounding leaving the home whilst their owners get physical exercise alongside them. Many of these characteristics are not achieved in smaller fenced-in dog parks or parks where owners are confined to a small section. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm reading this statement on behalf of Belinda Batty. I would like to voice my opposition to the petition calling for Rosanna Parklands to remain a park that allows dogs to be off-lead. As a Banyule resident for 42 years, including the past 10 years living in Rosanna, I've been a long-term user of Rosanna Parklands. It has provided a place to meet with friends and family, for my son, 20 months old, to play, to exercise, and for my dog to explore. Sadly, my dog Sarah passed away at the end of last year, but when we did explore Rosanna Parklands, it was always on lead. Being a greyhound, she had a poor recall, and being on lead was for her safety and the safety of other park users. Due to being attacked by another dog, not at Rosanna Parklands, Sarah was always fearful when an off-lead dog approached her. Rosanna Parklands is not a dog park. It is a park that allows dogs to be off-lead. I would take Sarah to Rosanna Parklands for exercise and stimulation, not socialisation. However, our visits would never be without another dog approaching Sarah without my consent. While at Rosanna Parklands, I've witnessed dogs attacking other dogs, dogs approaching other people and animals without consent, and dogs off-lead within 5 metres of children's playgrounds and picnic tables. These are clear examples of dog owners not demonstrating effective control of their dog at all times, or showing a blatant disregard for the rights of other park users and the Order of Council 1997. My hope for Rosanna Parklands is that it can become an inclusive nature space that can meet the needs of all community members, including dog owners.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm reading this on behalf of Harris Williams. The petition put forward by Jody has been edited substantially after gaining most of these signatures. This is a disgraceful and dishonest way of representing a community. The population of Melbourne is growing fast. Keeping the whole of the Rosanna Parklands as an entirely off-lead dog park is unrealistic, given the rapid rise in population density, not to mention the huge increase in medium-density housing with tiny or non-existent gardens. As many parks across Banyule do so already, Rosanna Parklands needs to cater for more than a single demographic, i.e. dog owners, because it is the local park for thousands of people. Most of the dog owners that I have seen at Rosanna Parklands are capable and respectful when it comes to controlling their dog and being considerate to other park users. I have visited Rosanna Parklands about once a week at lunchtime from early 2018 to early 2021, and almost every single time I went, whether it be passing through or trying to have a picnic, owners had either failed to or had not even attempted to control their dogs. So it is clear that fencing off park playgrounds will not be sufficient unless this were to also include picnic areas. The number of signatures for a petition is irrelevant when giving a voice to one or more minorities. Some of the people who signed the other petition asking for changes either had disability, were elderly, or own anxious dogs.
Thank you. And if there's no technical difficulty now to see the pre-recorded video. And if not, that's okay, we can read it out by the CEO. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a transcript of the video that's been provided by Jodie Barnes. So, good evening. My name is Jodie. I'm a resident of Banyule, and for many years, nearly every day of the week, I exercise my rescue dog off lead at Rosanna Parklands. Most evenings, I walk my dog there with friends who have walked their dog there for over a decade without any issues. Today I am here representing the close to 2,000 signatures in support of my petition, which is calling on councillors to preserve Rosanna Parklands as a park that allows off-lead exercise throughout the entire site. We also ask councillors to explore implementing proportionate and sensible improvements that do not materially affect off-lead dog exercise, and we have supplied the council with attachments with information to consider, including suggested improvements. In taking this approach, the Banyule Council would be recognising that the majority of people using Rosanna for off-lead exercise adhere to Banyule's regulations around effective control, and it would be deeply erroneous to penalise the majority of users on the basis of a very few instances of non-compliance. It is important to remember this site was designated as a park to allow off-lead exercise, and for close to 20 years we have used the space respectively with very few incidences. In addressing this issue, it is important for the council to acknowledge and take into consideration the following points. 1, the strong community support for the parklands represented in this petition. 2, the importance of off-lead exercise for dog behaviour, welfare and socialisation, as well as the co-benefits for residents who exercise alongside their dogs. And 3, the lack of other material similar spaces in terms of size and characteristics to Rosanna Parklands for dog owners, noting that the Rosanna Parklands is the only site out of over 100 parks within the Shire where all paths are designated as general purpose paths which allow any form of exercise at the site with your dog off lead.
So that was from Jodie Barnes, and thank you for reading that statement. Councillors, there's an officer's recommendation in the papers. Can I please have a councillor move a motion? Moved Councillor McKern, seconded Councillor Melican. Councillor McKern, would you like to speak to the item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's certainly an important item, and that's reflected in the number of speakers this evening. I'd like to thank everyone who's spoken, Brian, Wayne, Belinda, Harris, Jodie, and the many people who've signed up to this petition. It certainly is a large figure at 1,853 signatures. And I think that the arguments, Madam Mayor, for and against have been well presented by all the speakers. In Banyule, of course, you can pretty much exercise your dog in all parks off-lead. There are a number of exceptions, such as Rock Bear Park, which is the Banyule section of the Darebin Parklands. That park is on lead, and it's totally on lead for environmental reasons, given that there's a wetland there. However, regardless of that, dogs off lead in Banyule are required to be under their owner's control at all times. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen, and I think most of us have witnessed that, Madam Mayor, dogs not being controlled by their owners, which can be detrimental then for everyone. One of the speakers highlighted that Melbourne is becoming increasingly urbanised and as such denser in its population, and this is placing more pressure on our public open space areas for more dog walking, more dog walkers and more passive recreation by non-dog walkers. So I think we're going to be seeing potentially more conflict between user groups as Melbourne continues to become more urbanised. Now, last year, Madam Mayor, we did, or Council did approve the Domestic Animal Management Plan. And actually, it was early this year, excuse me. Now, as part of that plan, there is a commitment to review the dogs and cats in public places Council order by December this year. Through you, Mayor, could the Director of City Development comment on the process for that review and when it might come back to Council for consideration?
to the Director.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. You're quite right. The recently adopted Domestic Animal Management Plan has an action to undertake a full review of the public orders that are in place that manage dogs and cats in public places. The review is intended to include benchmarking, information from other councils on their approach, and a look to consultation with the community in relation to current expectations and making sure that those orders that are in place continue to reflect those community expectations. We haven't yet finalised the exact work plan for the delivery of that review, but it is to be scheduled to be completed by December, so we would be going out to the community well before that to seek their views in relation to that. The resolution doesn't look to seek a direction on how to adjust that, so that would be part of the consultation. I also note the Domestic Animal Management Plan has a number of other actions in relation to the use of education and dog park patrols and park visits to help encourage and educate the community about responsible dog management of dogs in public places. And that would certainly be part of any review that we would undertake about including actions in relation to that education piece as well, not just the use of orders.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Director of City Development, Natasha Swan. Can I just ask a question to that commentary by Natasha? Will the review outcomes be coming back to Council this year?
Through you, Mayor, yes, indeed they would. The finalisation of the review is due by December, and we would anticipate reporting such a matter, and certainly if variations were to be made to the orders, that would come back to Council for consideration.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does the seconder wish to speak?
Yes, that'd be lovely, thank you. Yeah, I'd like to thank all the submitters as well. I had the fortune to meet with Jodie today in the Parkland and had a bit of a walk around with her. She was apologetic she couldn't come tonight. She had a work commitment. But as we spoke, the park has been under enormous pressure, and during the COVID period, many people did discover the park, and certainly it was used heavily, and there was a few more conflicts with bike riders, dog owners, joggers, and yeah, it was a bit out of hand at times, which is disappointing. But it's settled down a bit at the moment, and it's good that we've got this petition. We've had a previous petition asking for the exact opposite, which is interesting. But I think both sides, the people who want to keep it as an off-lead park, but people who would like it on-lead, I think everyone would be against having fences in the parklands, because I think that would ruin the look and the feel of the park. And I know, speaking to Jodie today, that people really appreciate the Rosanna Parklands, the ability to run a lap around the parklands with your dog off-lead, which is a rarity in all the parklands in Banyule. So people appreciate that, and it is one of the great things about the parkland. But also some people in the previous petition felt that their children were intimidated, felt threatened by dogs, and this can have a lifelong impact on a younger person who will be timid or scared of dogs after one bad experience as a child, and it's also regrettable. But young people do need to learn how to respond when there are dogs in the room, but people need to make sure their dog's under control. So it is a complex issue, and enforcement is important, but I can sure we can find a way of making Rosanna Parklands a safe, easy place for people to exercise their dogs as they would like, but also making it safe so families can feel they can go down there, enjoy the parklands without being intimidated and threatened by dogs out of control. So I am looking forward to this report. I think we can get that balance right, and I think the people in Rosanna want us to get that balance right. So I think that will be achievable, and I think it'll be a good outcome for all.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? I put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 3.1, Kindergarten Infrastructure and Service Plan. There are no speakers on this item. There is an officer's recommendation. Can I please have a councillor to move? Move Councillor Castaldo. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Mitsonikos. Councillor Castaldo.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the significant work undertaken by Tess Williams and the rest of the team to deliver the Kindergarten's Infrastructure and Services Plan, which sets out plan for out to 2029 for years 3 and 4 kindergartens. This plan has already kicked goals and provided the evidence base for the funding of 2 kindergartens in Banyule. $2 million for the Audrey Brooks Memorial Preschool at the Belfield Community Hub, and in my ward, in Griffin, the Ivanhoe East Kindergarten. Since developing the KESP, Council has successfully obtained building blocks grants of $2.5 million to redevelop the existing site, construct a new double-unit kindergarten to meet supply and demands, and redevelop the outdoor space. This will increase the supply by an extra 55 licensed places per day. So it's delivering already, and it's just coming to council. So I think I'd just like to acknowledge that, and if we can let the staff know my gratitude for enabling us to move so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Does the seconder wish to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, all 3 of my children attended 3 and 4-year-old kinder programs within Banyule, and all of them ended up at Viewbank Preschool, which for us, it was just a lovely space for kids to go, grow and learn. And my youngest was, he was a bit of a clinger. He's probably the only way to say it, and kinder helped him to learn a bit of independence. So it was really great for him. But it's really important that we can keep up with the supply and with the demand, so that kids have the option of going local to help with school transition as well. Saves time with parents driving, they can just walk there, and it creates great local community connections. We loved our time at preschool. There's so many great memories and friendships were created. So it's important that all families who want to send their kids to school, to kinder, can actually find a place locally where they want to go and make sure we've got enough places for them. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? I might add some comments. I think it's great that the government is funding 3-year-old kinder, as it makes services more available to families that have not considered it previously. Can get expensive, and this applies to long day and sessional care. Demand is increasing for this, particularly for long day, and you know, this plan shows the shortfall by 2029. So we've got to ensure that all parts of Banyule, you know, in all areas, all socioeconomic areas, have the infrastructure to provide this. I now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 3.2, Christmas celebrations in Banyule for vulnerable community. There are no speakers on this item, and councillors, I understand there's a proposed motion that a councillor would like to move. Moved Councillor Mitsonikos with the alternative.
Sorry, thanks, Mayor. 3, seeks advice from Council's Multicultural Committee and the Banyule Interfaith Network on options to support community members who are socially isolated on days of cultural and religious significance, including Christmas.
Thank you, councillor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Garotti. Councillor Mitsonikos, do you wish to speak to the item?
Sorry, Mayor, I just had a question.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
A question, not a seconder. Councillor Garotti.
Second, but just wanted to query of the mover that point number 3 does indeed reflect the outcome that you're looking for out of the resolution, because now is the opportunity if you'd like to amend.
Yes. Oops, thanks. I guess I would like to add that one of the events to be on Christmas Day, because that is the day that traditionally people who have, you know, no family are sort of on their own. So it was, Christmas Day was the main, I guess, the main feature in having this, so.
Would the mover be open to an amendment to point 3 instead of saying including Christmas, with replace with particular focus on Christmas Day to bring out the
Yes.
intention you're looking for?
Okay. So with particular focus on Christmas Day, and Councillor Garotti, you second this? Yep. Councillor Mitsonikos.
Thanks, Mayor. So initially, when I brought this notice of motion, it was an idea that I've got several friends who have been sort of stuck, I guess, at Christmas time, and due to circumstances, family not being around, and it came to me that there is probably a lot of people within Banyule and even further that have nowhere to go on Christmas and they spend it alone. And so the idea behind this was to provide an event that people could go to, be part of a community, because that's what we're all about. We're about community. And if they have no one to spend it with, at least they could have a community group to go and spend it with. So this year, it was obviously a bit different this year because we still were in the middle of COVID. Sorry, last year. We're in the middle of COVID. But we did have a few groups who provided a Christmas Day event. And from what I understand, it was a really great day for those who went. My vision, I guess, was for this is to have lots of people who get together and feel like they're part of a community, even if they don't have family or anyone to share it with. So yeah, that was sort of what it was about. And we did some great work, thanks to Kath and the team this year. But yeah, let's make it bigger and better and include more people, hopefully, as COVID eases. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does the seconder wish to speak?
Just brief comments, just to acknowledge the work that Councillor Mitsonikos has been undertaking on the social policy front for this council, so taking a lead on looking how we support vulnerable residents around Christmas. But I think there's also been other notices of motion as well around what we do with regard to supporting women and taking a lead on domestic violence matters as well. So it's just really acknowledging her work and her contribution in that social policy space on this council, and very happy to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I think it's an interesting initiative. As I've mentioned at a previous council meeting, my family did become involved by serving meals at the Exodus community on Christmas Day, and so it was good to be part of this initiative and to actually see how it was run, and to follow up too with the organisers of that event to talk about council helping with such events, because this isn't really council core service, and there have been providers in our community, such as some of the faith groups, who have traditionally undertaken this role. COVID has hampered some of their good work of late. But it will be interesting now to see, just coming out of COVID, whether some of those groups will step up the way they have previously and provide Christmas lunches on Christmas Day. However, a lot of people were given an opportunity to have a Christmas celebration, whether it be Christmas Day or otherwise, as the report shows. And overall, it's been a successful initiative. Going forward, I think it would be good to, as has been recommended in point 3 of the recommendation, to discuss how this can look and feel by discussing it with the Banyule Interfaith Network and the Multicultural Committee, to make sure that we are getting good value and that as many people as possible can benefit from any grants we provide. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. I will comment briefly. I have actually I've spoken to this point before. I'm going to come from... there are other days apart from Christmas Day that are very significant in a variety of faiths' calendars. I'm going to comment on Christmas Day because that's my experience of my life. I was born and raised in the Christian faith. I've celebrated many Christmas days with what we call orphans. So these individuals who don't have family around them or people whom they are connected with around them on this particular day, this is another opportunity to welcome them into a group, a community. We shared a lot of Christmas days, either as a child, as a teenager, or as a young adult in other countries, with many different people who didn't have their families around them and others they loved and would normally connect with. And it really makes for a very special day when you can have other people to share it with and you actually get to create friendships which can last a lifetime. So this is actually, for me, a very, very special opportunity to make this hopefully part of our calendar long term. So I will certainly be supporting this without question.
Does any other councillor wish to speak? I put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 3.3, Community Bus Feasibility Study. There is one speaker on this item. A pre-recorded video statement will be played on behalf of Melissa Murphy-Webster.
Sorry, Mayor, we're still having technical issues with the video recordings tonight, so apologies, but I do have a transcript received from Melissa Murphy-Webster that I can read on her behalf. So Melissa is for the recommendation and her statement is, Banyule Council have had a recent history of not factoring the full community in regards to decisions. We respectfully request that you ensure that this project is fully inclusive and that in no way there will be any segregation to any resident or visitor of Banyule. The project is quoted at being in excess of $200,000 annually. Community members who are paying for rates directly or indirectly, should be able to utilise services. Our concern is because Banyule Council have to this point neglected to factor in the clauses within the state acts and orders that allow them to service their compliance. We expect that as part of the risk assessment that will be done by this CEO and Council for this project, information will be released to ensure that the community is fully aware and safe in the knowledge that excluding any residents is unlawful and unnecessary. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. There's a recommendation on the papers, councillors. Can I please have a councillor moved? Councillor McKern. Sorry, councillor.
I was going to move, but that's all right. I'll second.
Seconded, councillor Garotti. Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Banyule does have an ageing population and a need for assisted transport, particularly for our older adults, has been identified through the consultation process mentioned in this report by our officers. To be honest, Madam Mayor, I'm actually surprised that we don't have such a service in place. Many councils run a community bus facility to assist seniors and others who need assistance with transport. And I believe it should be supported. I'm interested to hear what our speaker said, and I take that on board. Thank you very much for those comments. How do you divide those who can use a facility like this from those who can't or who aren't eligible for a service like this? And to that effect, through you, Mayor, I would like the Director of Community Services to comment on that, as well as some of the discussions we've had earlier this evening around how a service like this might work, and also the trials.
Thank you. Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor, I might get you to repeat the first question, but the second question in terms of how the trials might be run is that we'd set a range of, I was going to say KPIs, but outcomes we'd hope to achieve with the community, like in terms of usage, patronage, it was actually meeting the needs of the people who were coming on the bus, that it was financially sustainable, that it was cost effective for the community, and we'd probably do a 6-monthly review, but then come back for a 12-monthly review. We might even potentially trial it for 3 days, which we've had some discussions about, before we expand it to 5. It would take a period of time, I think, to establish a new service in the community, so they felt confident to use it and it was predictable, which is why we think the 3-year trial provides a reasonable time frame to establish something and to really kind of seed that confidence in the community, along the way doing a constant review to make sure it's actually meeting needs.
Okay, thank you. I initially asked just how a program like this might work, particularly in light of some of the concerns raised by the speaker.
So any program or service that council runs needs to be in line with the health directives at the time. So depending on what the health directives are at the time would determine whether or not the service was open to people depending on their vaccination status. That would be dependent upon the health orders at the time. It's always council's intention to be as inclusive as possible and to find as many ways as possible to include all people, regardless of all statuses, in all of our services. So we would work to make sure that we could actually find a way to include the broadest range of people as possible in the service, keeping in mind and being in line with current health orders at the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Does the seconder wish to speak?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I will make a few brief comments. Yeah, look, just acknowledging that this report arose from a notice of motion that was taken up by myself and supported by council last year. We weren't sure when we embarked on calling for that report, and in fact there was a degree of hesitancy as to whether or not a feasibility would demonstrate that there is a demand, a need and a business case. In the papers, the confidential business case hasn't been provided, but that has been made available to councillors as we approach this decision. And it certainly does indicate that the business case is there, that there's demand, that there's opportunity, that it can be financially sustainable. So in terms of this recommendation, council's basically saying, well, look, we'll put down half the funds. We're going to look to the residents that will utilise the service to make a contribution. We're also hoping to engage in conversation, led by our chief executive with the state members to see if there might be appetite or interest there from state government. And hopefully if we can get the matched funding from those other services, then we'll be able to roll out what we think is a terrific service. And if it's successful, and noting that this is in the southern end of the city, there's the potential to look at it at the northern end. So I'm really excited about it. Thank you, Kath, and thank you, your team, for doing the work on this. And let's push on. Thank you, Mayor.
Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Melican.
Yeah, I do appreciate there is a need out there, but this is a large cost, and I think we should approach it carefully. But my query is further about the speaker. It said that we'd done something unnecessary and unlawful. I'm struggling to find out if that's true or not.
Can we find out at this stage?
To my belief, this council has not done nothing illegal or unauthorised.
Through you, Mayor, I believe that the speaker may be referring to how this council is responding to the current vaccination mandates as set by the Chief Health Officer. Our advice to date is that we are following those mandates as prescribed by the open premise orders. However, we will be undertaking a further risk assessment just to ensure that we're not putting this council at risk.
Councillor Melican? That's it? Yep. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 4.1, Yarra Strategic Plan. There are 2 speakers on this item. Written statements will now be read by Darren Bennett, Director of Assets and City Services, and Mark Gilio, Director of Corporate Services, on behalf of David Morris Gentle and Dr. Andrew Lees.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm reading this statement on behalf of David Morris Gentle. In view of the Yarra Strategic Plan, which we strongly support, we urge Banyule City Council to rescind its motion of 4th October 2021 to proceed with the Treetops project in Yarra Flats Park. This is because the Yarra Strategic Plan says the following. The Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people consider the following places, Yarra Flats, site of proposed treetops, to be a site of significance. Yarra Flats, area of significance, cultural resources, food, fibre and medicine. It was also a living area for the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung. On page 37, the Yarra Flats Billabong complex, located between Bulleen and Heidelberg, is a historically significant area that continues to be important for Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people and features in their Dreamtime stories. On page 58, balancing access and conservation. The Yarra's Parklands provides a broad range of community and individual opportunities to interact with nature. However, many forms of recreation in the natural environment inherently result in localised impacts to wildlife due to human disturbance, habitat fragmentation and the introduction of non-native species. These impacts can be exacerbated with increased numbers of visitors, especially where people congregate or enter the river. Many people have expressed the need to balance increased access with the need for conservation of areas with high biodiversity value. Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people believe strongly that parkland management should consider conservation over human desires and need. Page 30. The Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people have identified the following sites as areas for immediate protection. Bollen Billabong and Connection Billabongs, Banksia Street Wetlands, Treetop sites.
Thank you, Director.
Speaking on behalf of Dr. Andrew Lees, I wish to strongly endorse the Yarra Strategic Plan. This plan provides a solid foundation for the development of the Yarra River Corridor as a valuable open space for the people of Melbourne. This plan is highly commended for its vision of an iconic river red gum-lined stream meandering past billabongs, teeming with Australian wildlife. Yarra Flats Park has a large amount of natural and semi-natural environment siting alongside 6 kilometres of the Yarra River. It contains 5 wetlands including Annalise Billabong and Banksia Street Billabong. It is adjacent to Bollen. The Wurundjeri have prized this area for millennia as a place full of wildlife and rich spiritual meaning. We should do the same. People need such places in a frantic city like ours to find some balance in their busy lives. The prominent place that Wurundjeri values have been given in the plan have hopefully led to a better appreciation of their culture along with the ecological complexities of land and its management. The priority is the plan for the protection and restoration of the Annalise Billabong and Banksia Street wetlands is wonderful to see. These billabongs were once beautiful delights teeming with bird life and fish. To restore such treasures in central Melbourne would be invaluable. The principle of net environmental gain, which is embedded in the plan, is critical to redressing the long decline of the corridor and is to be highly commended. The recent Treetops Planning Panel concluded that the Treetops proposal would contradict this net environmental gain principle. The Wurundjeri have indicated opposition to the proposal as well. It is time to admit that the proposal does not fit into the Yarra Strategic Plan and the current community's priorities for the Yarra River. Groups like ours have spent much of our time fighting inappropriate developments along the river, and this plan should now allow us to concentrate our efforts on improving the natural environment.
Thank you, Director. There's an officer's recommendation in the papers, councillors. Do I have a mover? Moved, Councillor McKern. Seconded, Councillor Castaldo. Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Yarra Strategic Plan, known as Burndapp Birrarung Burndapp Umaku, excuse any mispronunciation, by the traditional owners. It is the first plan to be developed in partnership with the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Cultural Committee, and it is the first plan that outlines management and protection and enhancement of the Yarra River according to the wishes of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people and the Bunurong people. The actions of the plan respect and support the traditional owners to co-manage the river and its lands on their country. As the speakers David Gentle and Dr Andrew Lees have pointed out, the plan highlights Yarra Flats as a site of significance to the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people, and it's repeated on a number of occasions throughout the plan. So while the Yarra Strategic Plan does state opportunities for future projects, it also states that the Yarra Flats, the Bollum Billabong and its associated wetlands should be protected for environmental and cultural values. And I, for one, support that as a councillor. I appreciate the traditional owners and their concern for this area as significant in terms of a cultural resource as well as environmental. Food, fibre, medicine, a meeting place for other Kulin nations was mentioned by one of the speakers. As such, I am wondering, Madam Mayor, if I can move a motion to rescind the motion that was carried in October.
Can we get clarification on this motion from October? No. So we can't do that now?
There's a whole motion, there's a whole process that's involved in rescinding a motion, so we won't be able to do that tonight, but we can talk to you about the process that you could go through to do that in a future meeting.
Okay, I'll take that on board. Thank you, CEO. And I'll ask a question through you, Mayor, to our CEO, who has been delegated a responsibility in relation to treetops. And I wish to know how progress is being made between the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation, Parks Vic, and the proponent for the Cultural Heritage Management Plan.
Thanks. Through you, Mayor. We know that discussions with the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation are vital in relation to the tree chops proposal and the Cultural Heritage Management Plan and sorting out the issues. We're continuing to liaise with Wurundjeri to continue discussions on that important matter to see if we can resolve the issues that were brought up at that time.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does the seconder wish to speak?
I would also like to thank the speakers, who I know are passionate advocates for the area, as are many people across Banyule. I'll also acknowledge the significant achievement in concluding the Yarra Strategic Plan process through a collaboration and partnership between Melbourne Water, the traditional owners and the Yarra Collaborative Committee and the community to manage this precious riverway. It is precious, it's one of a kind, it's the most important waterway in Banyule, and it's absolutely important that we give it the care and respect that it needs. And I'm very supportive of this plan. In the first 12 months, there's an initiation plan that has been developed. I've requested some information on is Banyule getting some resource, because this watercourse has really been underfunded if we're to give it the full respect that it deserves. So I will be getting information on that and happy to share that with anyone that contacts me. And I do look forward to the advancement of this plan in alignment with the performance objectives of this plan and meet the objectives and everything that its vision has set out to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? I'll just add that this is the first Victorian integrated river corridor strategy to protect the Yarra and the land in its surrounds. And it's also the reflection on the endorsement from the traditional owners to support both the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and the Bunurong owners to co-manage the river is very significant. Okay, I put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion carried. Item 5.1. There are no speakers on this item and there is a proposed motion that a councillor would like to move. Councillor Castaldo.
An additional part 5 that note that the final development will need to respect the requirements outlined in the expression of interest and in particular moderate increase of overall building height from those outlined in the design and development overlay DDO 5. That 5 should be corrected, please, and inform the winning bidder.
Thank you, councillor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, councillor McKern. Councillor Castaldo.
Yeah, thank you. I've got a few questions first for the Director of City Developments. Could you please outline where we are at the moment and the coming steps on this complicated process for our community? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. The current recommendation before you is in relation to the request for proposal and commencing a commercial relationship with the preferred developer for the site. Following this process starts, I guess, some of the other harder work, which is the preparation of a subsequent planning application that would go through a normal public transparent planning process and come back to council for a subsequent decision. Following that step and depending on the outcome, then council has a further decision to make in relation to the commercial arrangements for the land, which is a separate process from the planning application process. If ultimately a planning permit is approved, then a final decision in relation to the sale of land and development occurs at that point.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, councillor.
And look, the expansion of the Cartmel Street car park and residential project is a significant project. It's both an opportunity and risk to council, and I welcome the development of this development on the condition that it is done respectfully and in line with the surrounding buildings and the intentions of the past and current structure plan for Heidelberg. This project would deliver on 2 fronts. It will double the total amount of parking available and include electric vehicle charging opportunities. There will also be end-of-journey facilities for bike users. So there is a range of benefits for a whole spectrum of transport users. This project will also contribute financially to the delivery of the future capital works projects in Banyule. Now, to speak to the amendment now, I have moved tonight draws attention to all participants in this contract the essential requirement that the final development will need to pay respect to the design attributes, including massing and height specified in the expressions of interest, and what was agreed to by council in initiating this project. Thank you.
Does the seconder wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank Councillor Peter Castaldo on the hard work he has put in, ensuring that the future development of the Cartmel Street site is consistent with the objectives, the adopted objectives of the Heidelberg Structure Plan, as well as the design development overlay, and delivers on ESD. Councillor Castaldo has worked hard with the officers and has stuck to particularly the objectives in relation to height requirements and massing of bulk, building bulk, so that it is consistent and delivers on those objectives. We set these strategies for a reason, and it's important that we can, if not be consistent with them, better them. So that's all I'd like to say. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? I just wanted to add that the Section 173 agreement, as Councillor Castaldo outlined, is important in this. And the other highlights for me was that the no gas development outcome was pleasing, and in relation to the Heidelberg Structure Plan, Cartmel Street is key opportunity site. Predominantly residential with some mixed use. So this is, if this goes ahead, that would be the ideal situation. I put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Item 5.2, Heidelberg Station to Rosanna Station bicycle path proposal. There are no speakers on this item. Councillors, I understand there's a proposed motion that a councillor would like to move. Do I have a mover? Councillor Melican.
Sorry, I've lost my piece of paper. I'll have to read it off the screen. The council supports the provision of a shared youth path through the rail corridor from Heidelberg Station to Burgundy Street to Darebin Street as part of the Northern Trail proposal. That we also write to the Department of Transport requesting that they construct a section of the path from Terman Avenue to St James Road on the east side of the rail corridor. This section should be designed not to impact on the tennis courts. This work should be coordinated with other rail closures to reduce cost. Considering the on-road section from the Northern Trail proposal between Darebin Street and Rosanna Station to improve safety, removal of the parking and easing of the ride flatter route, on-road route such as Cape Street and Manton Street should be included in the consideration. Undertake wider consultation to obtain the community's feedback on the improved alternative design, including clear, coherent and visual representations of both the shared path and the road section for the entire Northern Trail routes. To continue to advocate for adequate funding to provide the safe and separated path used path infrastructure, mainly within the rail alignment between Heidelberg and Rosanna Station. Thank the Department for Transport for their work in providing options to complete this vital link.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Castaldo. Councillor Melican.
Yeah, thank you. This has proved to be a lot harder than it should have been. The LXRA, when they did the rail crossing duplication, were proposing to allow for this path to be included, and in the end they did things that prevented it from being installed, which was incredibly disappointing. But it is a very important link, and now the state member has the $5 million, which it should have done the project completely, but because of the work of the LXRA, it's not sufficient funds. And the department, to their credit, have come up with an option that suits the budget, but I don't think really works that well. I think Horden Street, Beetham Street is not the flattest section, and it's certainly not the safest link that could be provided. But I think certainly improving the link between Burgundy Street and Darebin Street to provide better access for pedestrians and cyclists to access the station, the the hospital precinct, and also Studley Road will be a big improvement. But I think if we can get the link from Terman Avenue, where it currently finishes, to St James Road, that will open up many opportunities, because people will then be able to choose whether they can take Manton Street, which is right to where, virtually where this path will stop. They could use Cape Street, they could use St James Road heading east or heading west, or they could go on to Horden Street. So it's a much better option. But this option allows the then completion of the whole link within the rail corridor, which should be completed when funds become available. The route as planned by the department fits the $5 million budget, but there's work that will be done there that which would be redundant if the link is completed within the corridor. So, and we've been advised that large part of this cost is the actual close down of the railway service during the construction period. And given that we're going to do some closures already between Greensborough and Montmorency, if we could coordinate this work within, that would greatly reduce the price. So we think that this is a potential game changer for this project. We believe that if they consider our options, they will be able to do it within the budget, but they'll provide a much better link with still the potential to complete the link right through the rail corridor, which would be fantastic outcome. So I'd like to thank the department. I think given the constraints that they were given by LXR in the work they did, I think the department have done a great job. But I think there's a little bit more to be done, and I'm very keen to talk to them and their representatives about a way we can get this work done within the budget, but provide a decent link as well. So, and I know there's some people a bit upset about losing their car parks out of their house, front of their house, and I can understand that. If that was asked, we'd all be concerned, but I think we've got to think of the greater good for this project, but also no one actually owns their car park out the front of their house, and there's 5.2 million cars in Melbourne, and they're all entitled to park out the front of your house. So, as it is regrettable, and as part of this process, we will try and minimise loss of parking, but unfortunately, if you're going to make a change, sometimes those changes don't benefit everybody. So I'm for those people, and we'll try and reduce it as much as possible, but I think this will be a good project and something we would be able to look back on.
Does the seconder wish to speak?
Thank you, ma'am. I'd also like to thank all of the residents that have contributed and shared their ideas with us. Also, Alison Wood and Jonathan Risby and the team for their work on this report to Council, and all the work that went into prior to this coming to Council. Also, Councillor Melican, who has an in-depth knowledge of this area and opportunities and biking infrastructure that is important. So there's been extensive work and consultation to try and figure out how we can do a better job. We've also been provided with a lot further detail on what the options were considered during this investigative process from Department of Transport that haven't been shared with the community, and they go some way into explaining why this is a project of importance and why so much money has been provided to deliver it. So I think it's very important that we find an opportunity to share some of that deeper logic and thinking with the community so that they can understand why it might be impacting their homes as much as it is, and also acknowledge that the impact on some people is far greater than others, and we've got to be mindful of that in the way we move forward. And I'm fully supportive of the recommendation that has been hard worked on over the last week or two, and I'm looking forward to continuous feedback and development with the Department of Transport and also the local minister, that we have conversations and ensure that we get the best outcome from this project. And I do acknowledge that we are grateful for the opportunity to get this grant. It is something we value, but we've got to work hard on making sure that it actually does deliver something of significant value for the long-term future. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Does any other councillor wish to speak? I put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 5.3, Belfield Redevelopment Precinct. There are 3 speakers on this item. A pre-recorded video may not work at this stage, and it's to be played on behalf of Billy Rabakis, if I pronounce that correctly. Are they working or?
No.
No?
So thank you, Mayor. We're still having our technical issues with our videos, so I apologise to Billy Rabakis, and I'll read his statement out on his behalf. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. Tonight we will be presenting the Belfield Precinct Development Plan, which has been prepared by our clients Glenville with assistance from Roden Lohmann Architects. My name is Billy Rabakis from Urbis, the planning consultants assisting Glenville with this project. I'd firstly like to thank council officers for their hard work on this project and for proactively collaborating with us. As you are aware, the Belfield Urban Design Guidelines were approved by council in 2019 for the former school site at 96 Oriel Road and 230 Banksia Street in Belfield. These formally approved a development plan overlay on the site, which we're seeking to respond to tonight. Primary considerations are building height, street setbacks, our landscape response, and the location of the linear park on the site. Building heights across the site respond to the DPO with the exception of one additional recessive floor on the central apartment building to the west. However, this is offset by reduced heights to the southern townhouses at only 3 levels. These heights seek to respond to the DPO and provide a suitable transition of heights to the surrounding area. So largely in line with the DPO, with the exception of the reduced setback on Perkins Avenue to allow for a much larger, more user-friendly linear park in the centre of the site, which you can see on a slide that was meant to be on the video. The generous linear park at the 1,300 square metres proposes an important piece of greenery that does not compete with Ford Park across the road. We feel it's more sensibly located in this location than on the Perkins Avenue adjacent to the busy road. The proposal keeps 23 of the 76 existing trees on site, including 4 high-value trees. Our landscape response importantly increases canopy coverage of the site from 11 to 17%. However, tree 18 will be challenging to accommodate given the building locations.
Okay, thank you. There's another pre-recorded video that we cannot show, and it is on behalf of Deborah Priest.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, apologies that we are unable to show Deborah's video. I also note that the recording for Deborah was received in line with Council's public participation options, but regrettably, due to the technical issues, the recording isn't able to be displayed tonight, and unfortunately we were not supplied with a written transcript. So apologies to Deborah. Councillors will be provided a copy of the recording as soon as practical, and Council will issue a formal apology to Deborah accordingly after this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker is Jessie Vermilio to address Council in person. If Jessie is here. Is Jessie here? If so, please approach the lectern. No, Jessie? Okay. Technical difficulties and in-person ones, perhaps. All right, we'll keep going. So, councillors, there's an officer recommendation. Can I please have a councillor move a motion? Moved, Councillor Di Morellos. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Malikan. Councillor Di Morellos.
Thank you, Mayor. And just briefly, this is the end of the big project that this council has been on for the last decade. I'm privileged to be here to see it fruition. I know some of the other councillors have been here from the beginning, so thank you to you, because this has definitely been a big one. Great outcome. We're receiving 1,300 square metres will return to council, and congratulations to officers on all the work that's been done. Thank you to anyone that has brought up any concerns. I believe that most of those have been taken care of through technicalities and changes, so thank you, and yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Does the seconder wish to speak?
Yeah, great project. I think the number of people that have engaged in this has been significant, and I think that the lack of speakers tonight reflects that they were all very happy with this. I know from my experience during the consultation process, access across Oriel Road was certainly an issue, and I believe that's going to be addressed. But I think with the redevelopment of Ford Park, this will really become a bit of a beacon coming through that part of Oriel Road. It's certainly an impressive looking building, but it will also be part of a community, given the community hub that will be built there, the gardens, the forest behind there. This will become a real community hub, I think, and a great asset to this city, and it'll be a place that people will want to live, and will become quite a sustainable, happy little community within Banyule. I think it's a great outcome, and I think it just shows that council can partner with people and come up with good results that do provide decent living for people, but also return a good financial return to council at the same time. So I think that this is a great project, well run by the officers, well received by the community, and something we can look back as councillors and say we were there when that happened on council. And yeah, very, very, very pleased to support this tonight, and thank the officers and all the councillors for the. This started, I'm not sure how long ago the school sites were purchased, but it was a considerable long time ago. So it's been a very long process, but I think we've got a great outcome. I'm very happy to support it tonight.
Thank you, councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? And that was well said by both councillors, so I won't repeat it. We'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Bell Street. There are no speakers. For item 5.4, there are no speakers. Councillors, there's an office recommendation in the papers. Do I have a mover? Moved, Councillor De Morelos. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Melican. Councillor De Morelos.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a controversial project, I think, for the mall. There's been a lot of talk about revitalising the mall and that district and that precinct. As the process says in the papers, there's been an expression of interest, and we want to see something happen here. There's been a stalemate for a very long time, but we want your input, so that's why it's happening. We want to hear from the community. This is your opportunity as it's out to get in touch, to make sure that we know as a council that what you support and what you don't support, and also what is possible here going forward. I do want to highlight that just because we are doing the notice of intention doesn't reflect that we have to sell it. We have the possibility to pull out at any time. So this is the chance to hear from the community, and we look forward to the input. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Does the seconder wish to speak?
Yeah, Peter. Yeah, the ward councillor is exactly correct. This is there's been many proposals within Bell Street at the Mall to try and revitalise it. We were down there the other week, and it certainly does need a bit of an uplift, but it's also a very well appreciated and well loved place. So yeah, looking forward to the response this will activate. I think most people would agree that something does need to change at the Mall to try and revitalise it, turn into the hub it should be, and this is the first step in that process to find out what people really think, what people's visions would be for there, and how we can fix the Mall up and bring it back to its former glory. And I'm looking forward to that process. Again, this is not council trying to make money. This is a council trying to improve the area, make it more usable, and provide the services that the locals want. So, yeah, looking forward to the response. And another process, I think that we can, if we get it right, we'll give this land value uplift, but also provide the services and the facilities that the area needs and wants. So happy to support this tonight.
Thank you, councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Okay, put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 6.1, Victorian Government Local Sports Infrastructure Fund. There is one speaker on this item. A written statement will now be read by Natasha Swan, Director of City Development, on behalf of Amy Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm reading this statement on behalf of Amy Fisher. My name is Amy. I'm a 28-year-old mum of two, a 4-year-old and an 8-month-old. It has become apparent to me that because I have a different choice for myself and my family, I'm being discriminated by La Trobe University, RMIT University and the Banyule Council. The government rule is that you can play, work, volunteer in the community sport in any facility without proof of vaccination. Both RMIT and La Trobe are not allowing this and are claiming they are following the university rules and guidelines instead. I've also called the council and they have given me no help whatsoever. This is truly affecting my mental health. A day does not pass that I don't think about not being able to play netball under community sport, as it has been my only outlet and place I go to just enjoy my own time. I've been playing netball for this league and team for over 10 years, and it is truly something that keeps my mental health in check, and more so after the last 2 years not being able to play.
Thank you, Director. There's a recommendation on the papers. Do I have a mover? Moved. Councillor Champion. Do I have a seconder? Seconded. Councillor Mitsonikos. Councillor Champion.
Thanks very much, Mayor. I'd like to start by thanking the officers for not just this report, but all the work that they're doing behind the scenes, applying for the grants and working with our sporting groups. And I'd particularly like to make it note to thank the author of this report, Melinda Ramsey. Melinda's a well appreciated, very knowledgeable, well loved, well respected officer in Banyule, and our sporting clubs across Banyule, regardless of the sport, tell us how great she is to work with. So I'd specifically like to thank Mel for her work in this space. I'd also just like to, I'm going to specifically refer to the Montmorency Bowling Club being in my ward, Sherborne ward. I'm very aware that that club has significantly grown in the last 20 years, let alone since the 1960s, when it was formed and built. The original club rooms and facilities still exist, and they were outgrown easily by last decade. And the club leaders have collaborated regularly with the ward councillor of the day, so not just myself, but the previous ward councillor, as well as officers, to create some solutions to this growth, as well as address the growing population of our area, to provide a meaningful, relevant social activity for all age groups and all skill levels. So for me personally, it's been a pleasure working with the Montmorency Bowling Club leaders, meeting with them regularly, hearing what they would like, and keeping all of us informed about where they're at and what they're doing for the club as well and the community. I also I've actually participated in a lot of the club's activities, so it is my local bowling club. So I've actually loved going there with members of my network. So we've used their facilities too. It's a lot of fun. So for me, for the club, this is actually a very worthy, this upgrade is very worthy of the funding. So we really appreciate everything that everybody has put into council, the club itself, and our officers. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does the seconder wish to speak?
Thanks, Mayor. Once again, thanks to all the officers and Melinda Ramsey and the team for all their work with this. It's great to see Beverley Oval is looking at an oval reconstruction. I don't know if anyone's ever played there, but I've seen it. The clay-based soil has been a problem for years, and it pretty much turns into a swimming pool during the footy season, which can be fun to watch, but probably not so much for the footy players. It's on a personal level, I guess, with Yallambee Park being the ward councillor there. It's a shame that Yallambee Park didn't get the grant for women's friendly change rooms in this round. Obviously desperately needs an upgrade for anyone who's been there. So yes, we're looking forward to, staying tuned and hoping that will change in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Castaldo.
I'd just like to acknowledge the importance of state government funding for our capital works rollout. We've got 2 projects in here. There's a lot of other important projects council will roll out on their own, but I just want to acknowledge that these grants are really important to deliver the quantity and quality of sporting outcomes for our community. They've been coming in thick and fast over the last few years, which I'm very grateful for. And so I'd just like to acknowledge both the grant writers and the state government for contributing.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Okay, put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Moving on to 7.1, Jobs Victoria Advocate Program Update. There is one speaker on this item. A written statement will now be read by Kath Brackett, Director of Community Wellbeing, on behalf of Tony Webster.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I speak on the agenda item 7.1. Banyul notes and background acknowledge that COVID, or more specifically the lockdowns put in place by state government, have impacted employment of residents. It must then be acknowledged that the current mandates are having equally the same problem, and Banyul should be evoking Section 33 of the Open Premise Order of Severability and Section 203 of the Public Health and Wellbeing Act, subsection 2, non-compliance by reason of discrimination, mental health issues and financial hardship. Banyul boasts of inclusivity. However, in this area, I and many others are being affected by the unlawful discrimination and expect Banyul to do the right thing and stop the segregation with the tools residents have been giving them over the last 3 months. It's time for Banyul to start working for the people.
Thank you. Councillors, there's an officer recommendation in the papers. Do I have a mover? Jobs Victoria. Moved, Councillor Garotti. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Melican. Councillor Garotti. Do you wish to speak? No. Councillor Melican.
Yeah, a good program. We didn't quite get as much out of it as we hoped in the first place, but it's been a good program. And as we recover from COVID-19, I know we've got full employment at the moment, but I was talking to some people at Rosanna Parklands today while I was walking around, and 2 of them from building industries who work for large corporations who were saying that they'd both been retrenched in the last couple of weeks. So things aren't as rosy out there as people are pretending, and it's a bit of a worry when you see some of these large building contractors fall over, and some of them are not looking that stable at the moment either. So this jobs program certainly helped through the COVID crisis, but I think it needs to continue. And then, not forgetting, if you're looking what's happening overseas, COVID's still having an impact in Australia, but it's also having this new variant's having an impact in other countries as well. And we're certainly not out of the woods as far as COVID goes, and the economy is not looking at quite as strong as it was previously. So it's good this program is still running, and as we recover from COVID, it will be needed. But great program initiated by the government, and very happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Yeah, it's interesting, the economic forecasts that you read in the paper. Some reports are saying fairly strong, unemployment's low, and others are different. This is about a strategic response to tackling unemployment after the impacts of the restrictions, and these supports are crucial as they provide services like specific support for people that have been in long-term unemployment, or careers counselling, or job creation programs. and, creating local job networks. So these sorts of services that we might not always think about are essential. And, not to mention it's in line with our own priority of a thriving economy. We all want a thriving economy. I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 7.2, Economic Support Package Status Update. There are no speakers on this item. There's an officer recommendation. Do I have a mover? Moved, Councillor Garotti. Do I have a seconder? Seconded.
Sorry, Mayor.
Oh,
I'll
sorry,
move,
not moved.
but with the removal of point number 3.
Removed.
That's agreeable to the seconder as well.
So, with an alternate, thank you, Councillor. Do you agree to that, seconder? Thank you, Councillor Di Morellis. Councillor Garotti, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, look, I'll just brief comment to acknowledge that our economic support package is in place. It's delivering value. It's supporting residents and businesses initially to get through COVID, and now helping them hopefully to power through the recovery phase. Great report from officers, and very happy to go with their recommendation. We just thought it was important to remove that third point because it presupposed that no further support would be required by business and residents. And I think if there's one thing we've learned through this pandemic phase is that circumstances can change very, very quickly depending on the virus. And there's talk at the moment of a variant of the variant, I understand, that could be presenting problems, both health-wise, for the community, and then that flows on potentially to our businesses. So we just think it's important that we have a package in place, but as a council, we need to be flexible and responsive to what's happening. And, if things deteriorate, then we need to act. If things improve, then maybe we have an opportunity to pull back. But I'd just like to acknowledge that we're doing that as a council, and to thank Mark Gilio and his team for the work that you're doing in supporting our local businesses and economy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does the seconder wish to speak? Summed it up well. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Briefly, I'd like to comment on the business support that we've provided. The special rate and charge scheme, the Rediscover Local campaign, outdoor dining opportunities with the outdoor parklets in car parking areas, and the new furniture that's gone out. People would have noticed the new furniture out on the street, providing more seating in Upper Heidelberg Road, Ivanhoe shops. All these things have helped businesses, and I've been told, and I wanted to share this with fellow councillors, by the marketing manager for Ivanhoe shopping strip, Stavros, and his wife Circe, that Banyule has provided one of the most, if not the most, generous business support packages of all the councils he knows, and he works in a number of councils as marketing manager for traders. So it's a big applause really for council and its responsiveness to local business, and I wanted that acknowledgement known. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Just to add to the comments, Council has continued to respond, as the previous councillors have mentioned, to the community and looked at the situation from different perspectives, the perspective of the ratepayer, from businesses and from community groups. And this pandemic has led to significant higher amounts of requests for financial hardship through rate support, business grants and sporting club support, just to name a few. And the councillors have mentioned some of the others, so I'll leave it there. It's well done. I put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 8.1, the council plan. Progress report. I love a progress report. There are no speakers on this item. Councillors, as an officer recommendation, can I please have a mover? Moved, Councillor Malikan. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor De Morelos. Councillor Malikan, do you wish to speak?
I think we should acknowledge probably one of the most important reports we're facing tonight, the council report, and I'd like to thank Gina for her work in presenting this report. We did a lot of work with the council plan and we did a lot of community consultation, and I think that was one of the highlights at the start of this term of council, developing our community plans, our council plans. And this progress report shows 93% of, we've achieved 93% of our targets in the 21-22 period to December 2021, so which is an amazing achievement when you think about all the things we aspired to do, all the things we plan to do, and that given the setbacks that COVID provided, given all the issues we've faced, that's quite a remarkable achievement, and we're making the continuation of the plan available on the website and promoting the what we've achieved to date in the banner. So a very positive report, shows that the hard work this council's done, and to achieve those sorts of rates is remarkable given the constraints we've faced. And it is getting a bit harder. I think rate capping is certainly hitting us hard, and the material shortages and the constraints we are facing in some industries is certainly challenging as well. But also on the staff, the fact that people have been working from home for such long periods makes life that little bit more difficult as well. So a great achievement. Looking forward to the progressing reports as they come along, but no, a great work by this council, and thank the officers for preparing this report.
Thank you, Councillor. Does the seconder wish to speak? Does any other councillor wish to speak? Well, because I love progress reports, I'll just add that, or reiterate very, very briefly what Councillor Malikan said. It's very important for the community, so that the community is informed on our progress, and the community, we have really active members of our community that like to be informed, and this is one of the best, most strategic ways. It goes through the progress, the priorities, the strategic direction through this report, and it highlights everything across our 6 council priorities. So, so as not to repeat too much, just highlighting, this plan is a good track of where we're at. I now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 8.2, appointment of the independent chairperson for the CEO Employment Matters Committee. There are no speakers on this item. Councillors, there's a recommendation. Can I please have a councillor move? Moved, Councillor Champion. Yes.
Could I request, I'm sorry I have done this earlier, could I request a slight amendment? Would that be okay?
Amendment to this?
An additional point, if that's all right.
What is this point? Depends on the point, Councillor Malikan.
I think it'd be appropriate if we write to Lydia Wilson thanking her for efforts over a long period of time in helping us deliver a very good process and an excellent CEO.
Yes, this is, I think, an appropriate place for this. Appropriate?
That we write to Lydia Wilson thanking her.
Okay, let's thank Lydia Wilson. It's great. So moved by Councillor Malikan. Councillor Champion, do we accept this addition?
I accept that addition, point 4, yes.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to move that.
Okay. So procedurally, who's talking next? Councillor Malikan. Taking it away from Councillor Champion. Let's go, Councillor Malikan.
Sorry, Councillor Champion.
No, you're not. Not yet, you're not.
No, it has been a very enjoyable process working with Lydia Wilson, and I think we've all appreciated her guidance and experience, and given us a wonderful process to work through, not only also for the recruitment process as well. I think we have achieved an outstanding result for our new CEO, and I think this committee's helped us to guide and really mature our relationship and really build on the successes we've had in the past. So very happy to support this, happy to support the recommendation that the councillors on the committee, and also to welcome Alan as our new independent chairperson. Looking forward, I've never met Alan, I'm looking forward to meeting him and continue this work, but very happy to support this tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. I think you stole someone's thunder. Does a seconder wish to speak?
Yes, I do. Yes, thank you, Mayor. Well, I have met Alan Borden. So on a serious note, I do have the privilege of being on the CEO matters. Obviously, as a councillor, that's what we do. But also, I actually have the privilege of being on the CEO matters committee for the Yarra Plenty Regional Library Board as well. So I have had a little bit of experience in this, and it is an amazing experience getting to meet such highly qualified and experts in their field, and hearing them speak as well as represent, themselves in this particular role. They're obviously, vying for a job. Alan Borden in particular has had many, many years as a CEO. So he knows exactly what the role entails. And we did have 2 applicants for this. I may also say the other applicant I actually work with on the Yarra Plenty Regional Library Board, so she is also excellent. So it was a very, very, very challenging decision out of the 2 applicants. However, we are very happy with our choice, and we are looking forward to working with Alan in the future. And I do certainly support point number 4, Lydia Wilson. We do still see regularly, and she is an amazing human being. So absolutely, we wish to thank her for all her support in this particular role, as a consultant for us. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor? Councillor Di Pasquale.
Mayor, thank you, and thank you, Councillor Melican, for acknowledging Lydia Wilson at point 4. Would it be possible if we could get a small thank you gift, maybe a bunch of flowers or a card or something we could all sign, and that be possible?
I don't know that I'll authorise that myself, but I'm sure we can.
I'm sure that probably doesn't have to go into tonight's agenda, but maybe the Mayor could take that on if we could get that organised. That'd be great.
I'll take these on, yes. That's it? Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak? No? I'll just add, I was also part of the panel with Councillor Champion and Gina, and, just to add that Alan has had a lot of experience and knowledge, and we were a very thorough panel, so we asked a lot of questions. The other good thing is he chairs other CEO Employment Matters committees, so he's quite experienced in this area. It was a comprehensive, rest assured, and thorough process, and a good outcome for the committee. I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 8.3, record of councillor meetings. There are no speakers on this item. Councillors, do I have a mover? Moved, Councillor Melican, seconded, Councillor Champion. And an amendment. Councillor Di Morelos has an amendment.
There it is, it's in there. There you go.
Which is?
That there was an oversight on the 7th of March where I was present and it wasn't recorded. And note that officers will make the necessary amendments to reflect the accuracy of this record, which will be inserted into minutes of this meeting.
Okay, we'll add Councillor Di Morelos back into that meeting. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Champion. So now, Councillor Di Morelos, do you wish to speak? Councillor Champion. Does any other councillor? Councillor Di Pasquale?
Mayor, sorry, just for my following, was that an amendment that was made? Or was that?
Yes, there was a mistake in the minutes, and now Councillor Di Morales, that we add that he was there.
Is it possible, just for my following, that if we get any amendments that they come up in the pink writing? I think it was
pink.
in the last
Yes, we
one as
can
well.
change
It's a bit
that.
confusing.
Yes. Thank you, councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? I put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 10.1, notice of motion, council meeting prayer. There is one speaker on this item. A written statement will be read by Darren Bennett, Director of Assets and City Services, on behalf of Bev Moss. And I also note that an article or 2 articles were circulated by Bev Moss.
Through you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. I'm Bev Moss from Rosanna. In July 2013, Councillor Di Pasquale presented a motion to a council meeting to seek agreement for a prayer to guide councillors in their deliberations. The motion was defeated and there were 12 letters of protest to the Heidelberger and none in support of the motion. Tonight, I want to oppose the reintroduction of this motion based on my previous objections as published in the Heidelberger. Firstly, we live in a multicultural community which raised the question of how all religions will be presented, including the 33% of residents who nominate no religion. Secondly, councillors don't need religion to remind them of their accountability in infidelity. The community will remind you of that, as well as the plethora of council documents to guide you and found in the following: the Councillor Code of Conduct, the Councillor Expense Document, the Business Plan, the City Plan, the Banyule Service Pledge, the Human Rights Charter. Therefore, I strongly oppose this motion on the grounds that council is not a religious order, but a civic responsibility, and the two must remain separate in order to avoid discrimination.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, as an officer recommendation in the papers. Do I have a mover? Councillor Di Pasquale. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor McKern. Councillor Di Pasquale.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, moving this notice of motion. So just to address, I think, so a speaker mentioned that a prayer would guide councillors in their deliberations. This is not my intent. I think councillors don't need guidance, they need information. The more information we have, the better decisions can be made. So a prayer would not be to guide deliberations. I did bring this matter up in 2013. I became a councillor in 2012, and as a new councillor, I was approached by members of the community with a question of a prayer at the ordinary council public meetings. I also brought up this matter in 2017, at the beginning of my second term. Now, perhaps our speaker missed that, but now in 2022, in my third term, I move this motion tonight. In years past, so council, even in former councils, Diamond Valley, Heidelberg Council, meetings were open with formalities that included a prayer. Acknowledgement of country and prayers are part of federal parliament and, or at the beginning of the day. They are also part of Victorian state parliament sessions. So why wouldn't they be part of local government public meetings, our meeting? In our Australian federal parliament, and I quote from the Parliament of Australia website, upon taking the chair of the House each day and a quorum of members be present, the Speaker makes an acknowledgement of country in the following terms, and the acknowledgement is made of country. The Speaker then reads the following prayers. Firstly, Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to vouchsafe Thy blessings upon this Parliament, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of Thy glory and the true welfare of the people of Australia. The people then says the Lord's Prayer being our Father who art in heaven, etc., etc., etc. So what do we need a prayer? Well, prayers help millions of people around the world, they help billions of people around the world, and they help me. So if state and federal governments have them, then I think we should too. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Does the seconder wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As councillors, we receive much correspondence, Madam Mayor, from the community regarding concerns they have, complaints, services, facilities that the community want and doesn't have. Yet from time to time, I think it's helpful to step back and acknowledge all we do have. And I'm wondering whether this invitation to investigate the possibility of a prayer, and I'm not necessarily convinced by the word prayer, because I know that that can invoke many different responses from the community, but something along the lines of a statement or a pledge, as was indicated in the article we were shown, to give us an opportunity to step back and acknowledge all we do have and express gratitude for what we have. As a councillor, I've been amazed by the range, the number of services we do provide on what is a relatively limited budget. So this might be an opportunity to give us pause and to think about that thanksgiving or gratitude, Madam Mayor, for all that council does do and all that we do have as a very lucky first world nation. So in relation to that, I am wondering whether words to the effect of gratitude and thanksgiving might be incorporated into the second statement that we read on inclusivity and diversity, that it might be expanded or reworded by a clever wordsmith to acknowledge some of the sentiments and expressions that Councillor Di Pasquale would like to see us consider before we start each meeting. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Castaldo.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, first I'd like to acknowledge the contribution of the Speaker, Bev Moss, and I too do agree with her sentiments. But Councillor McKern raises some good points about the opportunity to reflect on and gratitude, and I think that could potentially be an important contribution in the future to our diversity statement. But I think I will not be able to support this recommendation this evening. Banyule Council is an inclusive council and community. Religion and the expression of one's religion is a personal choice in this country, and I cannot begin to say how thankful I am for that right and for the right for those not to engage in religion if they choose. Nobody or organisation should be required to take part in a religious ceremony, such as a prayer, unless they choose to, and under the terms in which they are comfortable. Consequently, I believe that we have included the recognition that is respectful and in an appropriate way in our diversity statement, which is read earlier this evening. The words culture and beliefs acknowledges those of religious persuasion. No further addition and acknowledgement is necessary in my view. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Champion.
Thanks very much, Mayor. I'd like it made known that it's in the words that are written here, we're simply being asked that a report be presented to us. And the report is a result of the investigation of the possibility of including a prayer. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So I'm really happy to hear what the investigations of a report have come to us with. I'd love to know. And I'd also know that coming with that is going to be feedback from the community, and I'd like to hear that because I don't know all that much, really, quite frankly, on that. I appreciate the time that our speaker has taken to speak to us, and she's offered her opinion. I also appreciate the history she's presented to us this evening. Thank you for that, Bev. I didn't know any of that, so I really appreciate that. And so with that, I'd like to, I'm actually going to support this because I'd like to hear, I would, as Councillor Mark says, like some information. Thanks very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Melican.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to support this tonight, I'm afraid to say. Staff are very busy, and I think and this investigation's been done previously and was rejected. I can't imagine the report will be any different. And similar to what the Speaker talked about, I actually looked at the census data from the last census, and 34.6% of Banyule residents in the last census identified as having no religion at all, by far the biggest group within our community. And that was well and above the Victorian average and also well above the Australian average. And that was in 2016. So the new census data will be coming out shortly, and I can imagine those will drop again because that was in the 4 year previously, that was nearly a 9% drop, 9% increase, sorry, in the number of people that identified as having no religion. And the vast majority have removed a prayer from their meetings. And it is true, state and federal do have a prayer at the start of each day. It's hard to argue it improves their behaviour or their decision-making processes. And we do have an inclusive statement, but I don't believe saying a prayer is inclusive. There are so many people who have no religion. We need to include people, not to say we are recognising one group. And if individual councils feel that they need to say a prayer to guide their decision-making process, they can say a prayer of their choosing to the God of their choosing when they need to. I don't understand how a mayor saying a prayer at the start of the meeting could impact on a council's decision. I am a Catholic. However, I understand the separation of my civic role and the responsibilities, my civic responsibilities with my faith. I am guided by my character, I am guided by the residents, and I am guided by the many policies that this council has. And I think saying a prayer is a relic of the past, and I think we need to remove it, and I think we need to show that we are a council that acts in the best interest of all of our residents.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? No, can add to this discussion. Listening intently to my fellow councillors, I want to point out that as a council, we always have the opportunity to express gratitude. We're always expressing gratitude through different events, through different, cultural events, through different activities, community activities, through all the programs that we're providing. And, without acknowledging God, I think, and changing a statement within our diversity statement is diluting the intention, I think, of this notice of motion. We already have an inclusive statement, and before we begin a council meeting, and its intention is to show respect to all backgrounds. And those who have religion in their lives are part of that, and those who don't are part of that. Our community is made up of diverse cultures and beliefs. So signalling out beliefs here is not something that I'm prepared to do. And to come up with a prayer that is inclusive of all religions is very, very tough. And this is the reason all this work has been done to get our diversity statement right, because it involves all people. To consider all religious beliefs within one prayer, to the point where the message is lost, defeats the purpose as well. So I stress, I guess we need to be careful and consider the impacts that this sort of research and report and councillor time will have. Thank you. I put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. General business items. There are 4 items of general business this evening. Councillor Mitsonikos.
Thanks, Mayor. I've discussed this many times, but it's that time of the year again for Share the Dignity. In March and in August, they have little donation boxes that are available at the checkout at Woolies, and you can pop in some period products to help women in need. In August 21, they collected 184,427 period products, and this year they have a goal of 500,000. These products are donated to women in poverty and who are experiencing hardship, and as we know with COVID, there's probably a lot more of that happening as well at the moment. So it's a great cause, and if you can, just grab a packet with your shopping, pop it in the little pink box, and you can go towards helping a woman in need. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McKern, I believe you have 3 items.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The items I have in general business today are around council events. Coming out of COVID, council is hosting numerous public events face-to-face. This is quite exciting after 2 years of cancellations and doing things online. So hopefully these events are encouraging our community to get out and about and reconnect with friends, make new friends, and reconnect with council's places and spaces. To this end, what I'd like to do, Madam Mayor, is just mention a few things that have either been on or are on now, so that those of our community who are listening in today can take advantage of them. At the Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub, Councillor, my fellow councillor here, Councillor Champion, Deputy Mayor Champion, opened a new 2 new exhibitions at Ivanhoe Library. One being a photography by National Geographic photographer Chris Cook, who is a Banyule local, in Loft 275, celebrating local wildlife and environment. I don't know about you, Councillor Champion, but I found the photography absolutely stunning. It was a completely different take on our local wildlife. This exhibition is on till the 10th of April, and I encourage everyone to get out and have a look at it. It is absolutely stunning, as too are the views from that particular gallery. The second is a collaboration of a Japanese ink artist and Kurdish visual artist. Really interesting combination of the 2 different artists, and that's on at ground level in Gallery 275 until the 8th of May. Sunday gone, I had the very special opportunity to speak at the Northern Region Indian Seniors Association celebration of Harmony Week. Their Holy Indian Festival of Colours was held at Ivanhoe Library. And I'm not sure if you know this, Madam Mayor, but apparently Ivanhoe Library has provided its space since 2008 to the Northern Region Indian Seniors, and this weekend was no exception, with over 100 people there celebrating this special multicultural event. And they had dances, and it was really well hosted. The other event that was held this Sunday gone was very well attended, and it was the Fun Day at Ford Park. Now, councillors on Sunday were actually in a strategic planning meeting all day from 8:30 to about 6 p.m. And this fun day was meant to finish at 6. It went from 5 to 6 as it was advertised. I thought I'd just duck in and see if it was still going. At 6 p.m. there were still hundreds of people there enjoying the council activities that were put on, including a small farm for children and walks being hosted by Lou Endicott, famous local artist and international artist, and this fantastic release of a walking circuit around Ford Park. So these were available as hard copies. I'll just show that up to the camera if they want to have a look at it. And these maps highlight all the or various interesting sites along a particular walking route that's been developed around Ford Park and the Darebin Creek. So it's quite an extensive walking route. And if you want a copy of one of these plans, you can call customer service and I believe ask for comms, who will be able to hopefully send one out to you or alert you to where you can get them in public areas. So I want to thank staff in particular for the fun day at Ford Park, because I believe the event was only meant to go for an hour, and staff were there 2 hours later still helping residents and guiding residents, and I'm not sure if they were being paid any extra for that time, but they were doing a great job. So full praise for our staff who were helping at Fun Day at Ford Park. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Continue, please. You got 2 more?
Have I? Oh.
That's
Well,
it?
That
Done
was
all of
really
them.
it,
All right.
but seeing that you've mentioned it, sorry, Banyule Open Studios is coming up, and that's worth mentioning.
It
That's
sure
going
is.
to be a great event on the 1st to the 3rd of April, and at the expense of Councillor Di Morelos, needing to go home soon, I'll just mention that this is online if you want to see more about what's being hosted, and just go to the Banyule website, where I'm sure you'll see a few of us councillors attending this. This is looking terrific. And I think that's it from me. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Garotti.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to actually pay a thank you to yourself and to our Chief Executive for hosting the councillor strategic planning session yesterday. I thought it was very well organised. The agenda structured well as a group, and with the EMT, we allocated out the whole day to go through a whole range of issues and plan for the council. I thought it was really productive and a successful day. And yeah, just wanted to say thank you to you both for organising that and setting it up.
Thank you, Councillor. I think that's all the items. Moving into public questions, we've received one public question, and this public question will be included in the minutes of the meeting, and the minutes will be available on our website later this week. I now close the meeting at 9:21 p.m. Thank you. Thanks for joining and thanks for watching.